Just take a moment as you're coming in to update your name in Zoom with your first name, organization, and gender pronouns. You can do this by clicking the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner of your personal Zoom square. Those of you who are dialing in by phone, don't worry about that part, of course. Closed captions are available today thanks to Partners Interpreting. You can turn captioning on or off by clicking the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions as you're settling in, please feel free to put a message in the chat box, either to me, Mass Cultural Council, or to the group, and we will begin momentarily. And we would ask that you keep yourselves on mute if possible. There is no obligation, so call the number on your screen to get our free decision guide. Licensed Humana sales agents are standing by, so call now. Okay, Kathy, you can start us off.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann. On behalf of all of us at the Mass Cultural Council, it's my pleasure to welcome you this morning to this regional meeting that we're hosting in order to introduce you all to our wonderful new Executive Director, Michael Bobbitt. With me today, the Board Chair, Nina Falco, along with Cecil Barron Jensen of Nantucket and Karen Barry of Plymouth. We hope to have a great discussion today. It's the first time we've done this in quite a while, a regional meeting of this size. So it's my pleasure now. We also have with us Carol Fiola, State Representative of Fall River. And Carol is now the chair, let me get this, it's a long name here, of the Tourism, Arts, and Cultural Development Committee, appointed by Speaker Marino. So Carol, we welcome you to the meeting and we invite you to say some kind words to all of us.
Oh, well, I know it's been a difficult time for everybody. I'm just honored to be here in my new role, and I see so many familiar faces. I don't even want to name one because I see so many, and I'll be looking forward, as you are, to working with Michael. And I had the pleasure to meet him, and I know how important this group is. And Kathy, thank you for your work on this council. And I just look forward to the next session and being helpful as I can.
Well, we're very lucky. We have a wonderful delegation. Carol and I were at an event on Friday and talking about the wonderful delegation that we have from the South Coast. And that's what we're celebrating here today, the South Coast, the Cape and the Islands. So, Mr. Bobbitt, if you're ready, we're ready. Are you with us, Michael?
I am. I just had to figure out where the little camera icon disappeared to. Thank you so much for that introduction, Kathleen. I really appreciate it. Hello, Southeastern Massachusetts. It's good to see you. It's great to see your faces, and I really can't wait to visit you and your institutions. I'm so thrilled to see Chair Carol Fiola in the room, and she is joined by our colleagues, State Representative Stephen Howitt and State Representative David Vieira. Thank you so much for joining us today. I also want to give a big shout out to Ange Putraselli Moon, who organized these listening sessions. She's pretty amazing. And a huge thanks to staff and council members joining us today. The opening slides that you saw as you came in the room featured art by agency-funded artists from across the Commonwealth. So I hope you enjoyed that. Before we get started, I would love for everyone to say hello in any way that you would like, except stay on mute. You can wave on camera, or you can post in the chat, or share a greeting in your native language. And we'll do that on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone. Oh, that's so good to see. I like to share things about myself, mostly because I believe that people do great business with people they know. And so I want you to get to know me, and hopefully soon I can get to know all of you. Many of the questions today that people are asking are about my vision. And what I want to make super, super clear is that any vision that I form will be in partnership with you, coming from listening sessions like this, staff, the council, legislators, and informed by conversations with colleagues at other state arts agencies, but also what is most critical for the Commonwealth and maybe even the country. So today I hope to give you a glimpse into the way I think, my beliefs, and who I am. So here we go. My name is Michael, though I have learned that in New England by default, a lot of people just call me Mike. Sometimes they get really mad at me because I don't answer, but I don't know they're talking to me, so I have to sort of get tuned to that word. I use the he series pronouns. And for those of you who have vision impairments, I'm a Black man with a shaved head and a closely cropped beard. And I am wearing a pink sweater because my colors are blush and bashful. I am sitting in my living room, and behind me to the side is an art wall of contemporary abstract art that my husband and I collect. And I'll share a couple of pieces with you later. I have been on this planet for 48 years, born and raised in lower Northwest DC, but I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts now, which is the land of the Nipmuc and Pequasit Band of the Massachusetts people. Everything happens on indigenous lands. I started my artistic career in the 1st grade when I was Hansel in the 3rd act of Hansel and Gretel, which my mom says was the best act, and therefore I was the best Hansel, and she has no biases whatsoever. I went to college and trade schools in the late 1900s to continue pursuing my career in the arts, and then toured the country and the world, working mostly in theater until transitioning to teaching and arts management in the early 2000s. I am the newlywed to my husband, Steve, who is Jewish, and now I get awesome Hanukkah presents. I raised 3 rescue adopted Shetland sheepdogs, and my husband says, when we settle, we'll adopt another dog, which also means no. Steve and I are the fathers of our 19-year-old son, Sang, who was adopted from Vietnam when he was 8 months old. He is studying marine biology at the University of Florida right now. He is also pestering me about a PS something or another, and I'm about to block him. My husband and Sang both speak Japanese and make fun of me in Japanese, but they don't know that I am secretly Rosetta Stoning Japanese, so I can catch them. I'm the brother of 7 siblings, and don't tell my siblings, but I'm pretty sure I'm the favorite child of Dorothy and James. My great aunt, Mamie Peanut Johnson, was one of 3 women who played in the National Negro Leagues, and she was discovered by Satchel Paige, which is kind of cool. She was called Peanut because she was 95 pounds. My godfather was the unofficial mascot for the Washington football team, and one of the main reasons why I don't like sports ball, in addition to numerous broken bones. My ancestry is predominantly Black, but descendants of white and indigenous ancestors. I only eat whole food plants, so no meat, dairy, processed food, or sugar. I used to eat a lot of ice cream. I was an Idris Elba stalker. I did a lot of cookie baking, and I'm still trying to recover from my TV addiction, and I relapsed because of Bridgerton and WandaVision. I'm an arts leader, educator, playwright, director, choreographer, arts and anti-racist advocate, and I aspire to be graceful, a little silly, sometimes provocative, plus savage, classy, bougie, and ratchet. And now you know a whole lot about me. I'm looking forward to learning more about you. So let's get into some questions. We had many members of the Southern Massachusetts artists and arts organizations and humanities organizations and cultural science, creative science organizations send in questions. And so our first person is Christine Coleman from Plymouth Patuxent Museums.
Hello. So my question comes as someone fairly new to their role at the museum. My role just recently changed. And kind of an intro. My question is, could you give us an introduction to Mass Cultural Council and how, for anyone here that's somewhat new to being involved on these Zooms, how to get more involved?
I'll be bold and say that we are the most important agency in the Commonwealth, because arts and culture and creative sciences and humanities are the most important thing in the whole entire world, right? So it's just in general, working in the arts, humanities, and sciences. Culture is a dynamic force for enriching communities, and we support that. Our mission is, as a state agency, to promote excellence, inclusion, education, and diversity in the arts, humanities, and sciences, and foster a rich cultural life for all Massachusetts residents, and contribute to the vitality of our community and economy. We pursue our mission through a wide range of programs, a bunch of grants to organizations and individuals, initiatives and advocacy for artists, plus services for professional development for communities, organizations, and schools. And that's sort of us in a nutshell. We have a lot of beliefs, but there's tons of information, Christina, on the website. But I will go back and say it again. We are the most important agency in the Commonwealth, because nothing is more important than arts and culture and humanities and creative sciences. Can I get an amen? All right. Thank you all. So we have another question from Tina Gaines. She's the chair of the Harwick Cultural Council.
Hello there, Michael. Welcome.
Thanks, Tina.
And I'm Tina Gaines from the Harwich Cultural Council. I'm the chairperson. And our question from the council is, what experience do you bring as it relates to working with our small towns, our main streets, and our rural districts? And how can we help build the cultural profiles in those areas?
So to be honest, not a lot. And I was reflecting on this yesterday, because in Western Massachusetts, they had a lot of questions about my experience as well, and sort of what I hope we can do with the agency. I will tell you that I lived in the suburb of Washington, D.C. for the last 15 years prior to moving here. And I lived in a little town called Glen Echo, which kind of reminded me of Brigadoon. It was like a fictional land that appeared every 4 years, and you couldn't really see it until the trees were clear of leaves. But it was, even though it was in Montgomery County, which is a very large county in the state, it was a very small town that operated as its own city. It had a town council and a mayor, and it was 105 houses. And so I worked with that council to sort of help them elevate arts and culture in the town. Next to it was a big park, a big national park, Glen Echo Park. Well, someone knows Glen Echo. A big national park, and I ran a theater in that national park. So merging the town in the park together and making sure that everyone elevated that. The other thing is I was on the Rockville Chamber of Commerce's board. And so I got to work not only with council members and the mayor of the town, but also with the business community and economic development to really sort of help them make sure that arts was infused in every single aspect of the organization. One of the things I got the city of Rockville to do, Rockville had a kind of a local cultural council. So shout out to all of our local cultural councils. And it was a volunteer group, and it was charged with coming up or revising the cultural plan for the city. We all met together a couple of times, and there were small little initiatives that were talked about. And I convinced the council to advocate with the town to get funding in the line item to do a really big audit of the whole town, with the goal of creating a Department of Arts and Culture in the town government. Because I felt that we couldn't really elevate the work of arts and culture in that town until we had someone in the legislation helping to think about arts and culture from the inside out. There was tons of development planned and tons of ideas, but no one was saying, to this department. Hey, have you thought about arts and culture? And this department, have you thought about arts and culture? So it's one of the experiences I can bring, and I would love to work with some of our staff members who work directly with the towns to sort of figure out how we can work with our local cultural councils and help them see how they can help infuse arts and culture throughout their town and all the different departments. I love all the love for Glen Echo. I had so many memories there. I lived in that town and I walked to work every single day. It's a beautiful, beautiful town. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you very much. And
I'm very familiar, Michael, with Glen Echo because I lived in Alexandria, Virginia for 13 years. So it was just over the bridge. So.
It was just, everyone, it was this beautiful, enchanting little town that that used to be an old amusement park, and then it was converted into a national park. And then there was a bit of racial tension there, but in the late 60s, Howard University students protested because the park was privately owned, and the people that owned the park decided that if Black folk were allowed in, they wouldn't let anyone in. So they shut the whole park down. The National Park Service bought it in the early 70s and converted it to an arts park. So my old theater that was in the park was in the old Penny Arcade, which was just a fun little space to have. And actually on that site is one of 2 carousels in the country that it still is on the site that it was originally built. And that one has a menagerie of animals, not just horses. So you can see tigers and bears and all kinds of animals. So just this enchanting place. And every time I go back to visit, I swing by and just to absorb it all. Thank you, Tina, so much.
Thank you.
We have another question from Sandy Dennis, who works at Creative Arts Network Incorporated in Fall River.
Well, welcome, Michael. It's nice to see you. I have, I guess, a series of questions, but I will keep it brief. My question is the training that MCC can offer to not only the communities, but the art and culture representatives, many of them here today. I know that with COVID, we've all been doing a lot more virtual events, and I think that there needs to be a lot more social training for social media like Facebook. I know I participated, and it was a wonderful program with the Audience Lab, and they really helped us navigate our way through Facebook and other social media networks. But I'm wondering if MCC would do an in-depth training, like a step-by-step tutorial on Facebook and how to reach a wider audience. Like I said, was fortunate to have been able to participate in that. But I think that with the way we're going in the virtual world, we all need to know a little bit more on how to navigate the social media. And the other part that I have is I think training is very, very important. And not only for us, but I think we need to train and educate our leaders and even on the local level, maybe perhaps like us, our city council, to have them better understand the needs of the art and culture industry. And someone mentioned the cultural council. I think they need to understand where that money comes from. It's dedicated money, who distributes it, why they distribute it, how they distribute it. So they have a better understanding and a grasp on what our industry is all about. We've been doing this successfully now for 7 years. And we're happy to say that we have seen a growth in interest in art and culture in our area, which makes us happy. So it kind of is a tribute to, you know, all the work we've been doing in the last 7 years. That's my question.
Great. So congratulations on the success you've had, and maybe we can chat to see sort of what best practices you've incorporated to help your local cultural council get more elevated. But I did want to turn the training question over to a couple of staff members, Kaylin and Dan, to talk about some of the work, the offerings we have currently for our organizations to get some professional development. And I know Dan and his team are working on some of the professional development for artists. And then after that, I'd love if Beth Ann or Dave can talk about the LCC legislation, so people really understand what's in the law. Kaylin, do you want to go first? Great.
Sure, happy to. So we have a very robust technical assistance services agenda actually for the rest of our FY21. It's called the Recover, Rebuild, Renew series, and it's based on 300 conversations that the Cultural Investment Portfolio team had with organizations all across Massachusetts this fall. We had hour-long conversations with organizations in the portfolio and asked them what their needs were to recover, rebuild, and renew after COVID. And we took all of that information, collated it, and have come up with this series, which is 42 webinars and hours of additional consulting that's available. And there are going to be conversations about virtual audience engagement because that's something that we kept hearing over and over again. So put it on your calendar. It's April 1st. It's called Connecting in the Cloud, Innovations in Audience Engagement in Virtual Performance.
Thank you, Kaylin. Dan, you want to talk about what you're cooking, what your team's cooking up?
Great, yeah, thanks, Michael. And thank you for that question, Sandy. My name is Dan. I have the privilege of working with individual artists at Mass Cultural. And your question comes really at the best time because we are right now developing and researching what we hope to offer in the realm of professional development and workshops for individuals. So it's great to know that social media is something that that you see as a need area for artists and individuals, and that's definitely something we'll consider as we're developing our plan. So thanks.
Beth Ann, do you want to talk about the LCC legislation?
Sure. This legislative session, we are working with Representative Ken Gordon and Senator Adam Hines on a bill which is called an Act to Expand LCC Membership Opportunities. In the chat, you can get a link to a blog post explaining the bill with the numbers, which are currently HD 655 and SD 1204. But in statute, it says, in state law, it says that you can't be appointed to serve on a local cultural council if you already hold another local or regional elected office. And what our Communities Initiative team, which manages the LCC network, has found is that in a number of very small and rural communities, there are folks who very much want to serve their community, and maybe they're on, an elected position like a library commission or a regional school committee or on the town committee, but they're prohibited from also serving on the LCC, and then the towns are having trouble filling those seats, and then the council can't achieve quorum, and it's hard for them to do their business. So this is a small technical correction to the statute, and it simply says that some local elected officials can serve on an LCC. So not the mayor, not a city councilor, not a select board member, not someone who is the chief appointing authority or the appropriating body, but anyone else. If you're on a smaller local board, you would be eligible to be appointed to an LCC. And we're excited to work with those legislators to advance this, to make sure that all of our towns have a robust network.
And in the legislation, we are legally bound to fund LCC. So we get money from the state, and some of that money gets doled out to the LCCs, who then give it out to artists and arts organizations and cultural institutions and creative sciences and humanities. So that's there. Also, the LCCs can help us when it comes to advocacy by reaching out deeper into your communities, as we are sort of trying to advocate for funding and advocate for small changes in technical statutes like this one. So LCCs are important. And I think, if I'm correct, it's the largest network of LCCs in the nation.
Correct.
Nice. Nice. Thank you, Sandy, so much. We have a little bit of fun now, everyone. We have created a little poll, an interactive poll, so you can get to know me a little bit more. I'm going to shift a little bit because the sun keeps following me. Eric from staff will sort of talk you through this poll.
Thanks, Michael. Thus far, Michael has chosen not to share baby pictures, so we have a series of 3 polls that delve a little bit into some of Michael's past work. I'll read the question and then you'll see the poll on your screen and you can respond to it, and then I'll share back the results and Michael can tell us where the truth lies. So our first poll, which of the following brands or stories did Michael not adapt into a children's play? Bob Marley, Garfield, the Tabby Cat, Jumanji, Goodnight Moon, Caps for Sale, Make Way for Duckling. You'll see the poll results accruing.
This is so much fun.
We'll wait until we get up 75% at least, get a good representation. We're almost there. There we go. Michael, you want to give us the answer?
So the answer is Goodnight Moon. I did not adapt Goodnight Moon, but there is actually a beautiful play out there adapted. So Caps for Sale won the poll. So you all know Caps for Sale. The book is, what, 85 years old, but you remember the book where the peddler who stacks his caps on his head and the monkeys steal his caps, and there's a whole monkey see, monkey do thing. But I adapted the book. I worked with the lady that runs Esper Slobodkina's estate, who was the author of the book. And the show went to New York and played off Broadway to sold out houses for a while. My favorite project was Bob Marley's Three Little Birds. It's kind of nice to say, I wrote a play with Bob Marley. He was dead when I wrote it with him, but I did write a play with Bob Marley. Next one.
Next poll. Oh, sorry, give me just a second here.
While Eric's pulling up the second one, I forgot I was going to offer a tip about the professional development. If you haven't checked out LinkedIn Learning, a corporate account, it's extremely inexpensive, and there are hundreds of thousands of courses that your staff can take on the LinkedIn Learning, a corporate account, and even some certificate programs and even some actual degrees for very little money. And what's great about that is supervisors can go in and assign classes for people to take and put a timeline on it. And when you complete a class, it populates your LinkedIn Learning account with a new skill set. So boost up your resume.
Great. So our second question delves a little more into Michael's past experience. Which art form did Michael not work in professionally? Directing an opera, sculpting public art statues, choreographing a ballet, writing plays for the Smithsonian, trumpeting for a major national orchestra.
Like we should have music, Jeopardy music. Eric, will you sing for us?
Oh, you do not want to hear that. I like you all too much. All right, we'll pause here at 73%. Michael.
All right, I did. Oh, you got it. I did. Oh no, actually, trumpeting for a major national orchestra. So I did not sculpt a public art statue. I was not involved in that. But my first career was as a classical European trumpeter. I went to college on a music scholarship. I was first chair of the symphony, the wind ensemble, the marching band. I was seriously going to be a trumpeter. I owned like 4 or 5 trumpets at the time, and it was my first love. And then I realized that I missed dancing, so I went back to dance and eventually moved over to theater. But yes, trumpeting was a thing. I was in a program at the National Symphony Orchestra. My trumpet teacher was Dave Flowers, who was the first chair of the orchestra, and Adele Sanchez as well. It was a major career. I miss it sometimes.
And our final question, our third question, a little more about the past. Which one of these did Michael not do? Pioneering sensory, autism-friendly performances, serving as a grant panelist to review state arts agencies for the National Endowment for the Arts, supporting and beta testing a state senator's state-supported bridge gap loans to nonprofits, introducing Michelle Obama at a well-publicized event, hosting a cable TV show to promote a county's arts and culture scene.
We may change up the questions for tomorrow and get new questions, Eric.
The responses are very similar from yesterday.
Yeah.
Patterns, data.
Yeah.
I don't know what they mean, but they're there. And we'll cut it there. Michael.
Pretty equal. I did not introduce Michelle Obama at a well-publicized event. It's a dream of mine. It's gonna happen someday. There's still time. Let's see, what I want to talk about. I'll talk about the bridge gap loans later because it may be something we want to try here. I hosted a TV show in Montgomery County that sort of county-wide promoted the various artists and arts and cultural organizations that were in the state. It was a lot of fun. Once a month, there would be producers that would go out and feature arts organizations. And then I was that guy who would say, thank you, such and such, for that great presentation. Here's the introduction of the next person. And that was about 2 years of work. It was so much fun. You can actually still see it on YouTube. I think it was called Montgomery Arts Infusion with your host, Michael Bobbitt. I remember that. Thank you all so much. That was a lot of fun. Let's get back. We have a few more questions. Let's get back to it. Our next person is Christine McCarthy, Provincetown Art Association and Museum.
Michael, welcome. You had me at Shetland Sheepdogs, so thank you on that.
Best dogs, hairy, but really great dogs.
So my question was really about your vision for the future of the arts in Massachusetts, considering that we've just are in hopefully wrapping up the pandemic. It's changed all of our ways that we think, the way we work, and it's going to affect moving forward in the future. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, sure. So I don't really have a vision formed yet. After having all these conversations, vision impulses are starting to enter my head, but there are just so many more conversations to have. I think yesterday my curiosity about, and today even, my curiosity about the uniqueness of rural communities has infused my thinking. So I spent a lot of time researching last night. So we'll formulate that. I think sort of from a belief system, I want to make sure that arts, culture, creative sciences, and humanities are accessible to everyone that wants to see it. I do, in many ways, believe that we have to be equitable. The world is demanding that we're equitable, and it's nice to see on the news that everyone is talking about this every single day. So hopefully we can support you all in your efforts to get there. The other thing I will say is that and some of this goes to Sarah's question next, but I definitely think that there is a greater possibility of us infusing ourselves in the recovery for the whole state when it comes to arts. We know that there is, because of all the jobs that we offer, there's a lot more money coming back to the state in tax dollars. We also know that when people go to the arts, they will often get their hair done, they'll get their nails done, they might buy a cute outfit, they use public transportation, ride share, they put gas in their car, they park, they eat at the restaurant, they go to the bar after. There's just so much secondary spending that happens with the arts. So I want to make sure we're infused in all aspects of the organization. The last thing I would say is that I think that when I think about what the world needs and where we need to go as a world, to me, the people that can figure that out, or at least see it better than anyone else, is artists. You know, how often does an artist look at a canvas, a blank canvas, and imagine what should be on that canvas? Or a playwright has an idea and sits down at the computer, and then a couple of years later, there's a whole world on stage or on screen or in a book. Or a sculptor who's looking at a lump of clay and he can see what that lump of clay will become. So we are experts at seeing the world different. And to me, imagination is seeing the world different. Creativity is bringing imagination to life, and art is the product of creativity, and artists are the vehicle for art. So if we want to sort of imagine what the state could look like, what the Commonwealth could look like in the future, then let's put artists in all those conversations, because we will help you get there. And so that's part of what my sort of vision is. How can we infuse what all we do in every single aspect of society? Thank you, Christine. Then we have another question from Sarah Rose, South Coast Community Foundation.
Good morning, Michael, and welcome.
Good morning.
We all know the devastating effects of COVID-19 on arts and culture institutions. Organizations that traditionally work hard to make their budgets balance pre-COVID are now left in increasingly dire condition. What do you think it will take to rebuild the arts and culture sector post-COVID? And what opportunities do you see as we reimagine these spaces?
Sure. So as an arts leader, this is my third crisis that I've had to work through as a specifically running an arts organization. The first was that theater I talked about in Glen Echo. Glen Echo was a national park. So in 2016, well, beyond the 2008, 9, 10 economic crisis and navigating that, in 2016, when the government shut down, my theater was shut down because we were in a national park. So we lost significant money, and we had to turn that around and turn it into an opportunity. The other thing was one day at 5 o'clock, I woke up in the night to go to the bathroom. I saw a bunch of texts on my phone and left messages. And the first text I saw was, "Sorry to hear about the fire at your theater." And then I turned on the news and there was my theater on fire. So we had a massive fire and we had to sort of figure out how to get through that. We actually wound up raising more money than we needed and was able to renovate the next space. At New Rep, I walked into New Rep and we had significant debt for numerous reasons, but in the year of the pandemic, I was able to wipe out all the debt and also amass quite a bit of reserves, enough reserves to not have to actually lay off any staff or furlough any staff. In fact, we added people to the staff. So I only say that because I think that I want us to shift some of our focus about the crisis that we're in and to imagine what the opportunities are about that crisis. We've learned that our whole industry is vulnerable to a lot of things. One being that its revenues are so dependent on people being able to gather in a space to absorb the arts. And most of us have been scrambling to figure out how to get our art out there in the digital world. And I kind of believe we haven't even scratched the surface of what we can do in the digital arena. And my analogy is the sporting industry. When sports started streaming into people's living rooms, one, there was a fear that people would not go to the sporting arenas. They would just sit at home and watch sports on TV. But that's not what happened. The opposite happened. They were now able to get their games to millions of people from their living rooms. And because those people that could not afford to go to the venue, they saw how exciting it was. And so they started finding ways to get to the venue. So the arenas actually started getting fuller with audiences. Plus, now that they can reach larger audiences, their corporate sponsorship grew because there was more people to sell their products to. But the thing I want to stress to you all is that there is the possibility that exists when the art and the technology can merge is endless. If you think about when you're watching sports at home, now you can replay, you can slow-mo, you can zoom in, you can have information crawls on the bottom of the website. You can have commentaries on the work that the game that's being played. What if we incorporated that into our venues? I can imagine a docent-led tour, and then there's stats and information about the art that people are seeing on the bottom of the screen. Or you can zoom in to see like the texture in the paint that you probably can't do when you're actually at the museums. So I encourage you all to, yes, we're getting through this stopgap period where our organizations are bleeding, but I encourage you to save some space somehow for innovative thinking post-COVID. We're going to need that. I mean, our venues are, who knows? I mean, we hope we can get back into our spaces soon, but it's happened before where our big venues were turned into condos and CVSs, and we don't want that to happen. So we need innovation so much, and there's no one better at innovating than artists. So bring some of your artists into the room, talk about ideas that you can have, because we need big ideas. I hope that inspires you a little. Thank you, Sarah. And then there's one other question, right, Anne?
Yes, we do. We have Ellen Flynn from the Mattapoisett Land Trust. Ellen, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. It was lovely to meet you by way of Zoom, Michael. My question is, I belong to the Mattapoisett Land Trust, and I'm the education chair and on the board. So in our programs, a question to you would be, as a small provincial town by the sea, how do you suggest that we become more inclusive in such a, power of using outdoor theater and bringing in Black American literature?
Yeah, so inclusivity and diversity and anti-racism, these are all acts of love. Trying to show love to people that have never been loved before by this country in many ways. And so I want to really highlight and bold and italics the word acts. You have to build action plans. It's really important. And the thing that's most important, so here's the sort of analogy I use. If you've ever been cheated on, you become hyper vigilant, right? It doesn't matter if the person who cheated says to you, trust me, I will never cheat again. Their sayings, things they're saying don't matter until they show you what they're going to do to rebuild trust through their actions. The hypervigilant person gets very like, who are you talking to? Where are you going? Let me see your phone. Why were you talking to her? Who are you texting, right? You just get hypervigilant because you just want to see their actions. And so organizations that aren't building action plans are not going to rebuild the trust of people of color, the people that you might want to engage in your art. So you have to think about, and some of us have unconsciously built barriers that we may not be aware of. And some of the ways to build down those barriers is include people of color in the planning of the action plans, because their perspective will be different. They'll see things that you can't see. So your action plans are going to help you build a more inclusive, multiracial organization. And the other way I can sort of suggest is that the importance of your action plans is that as a gay Black man, as a gay man, I will say, I know a space is safe because there's a rainbow flag posted somewhere, signaling to me that the people in that organization have a belief system that includes me. We don't really have those markers as people of color. It's really about your actions, the actions that prove that you really want to include people of color. And sometimes we build policies and we build programs to fix sort of the problems in our organizations. Those will only help to build a new culture of it. So to me, your action plans, action plan, action plan, action plan. And if you just start with like 5 or 10 things that you can do, it will help you so much. Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you so much.
All right, so I now get to share with you a little bit of art from Steve and I. So I'm going to take the microphone off. Tell me if you can still hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'll talk as loud. I'll use my 7 years of classical acting training and speak very loudly. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of a tour. Steve and I collect a lot of eclectic stuff, but here There's a couple of artists I want to share with you. One is this artist here. His name is Corey Turner. I think he's still getting his MFA from either Columbia or NYU, but I think his art is just so great. And there was another piece up there by him. And then we have another piece over here by him. But one piece I wanted to share with you, which I'm really excited about, this piece of art here by Michael West. And Michael West was a contemporary of Jackson Pollock. I think they actually lived together. And Michael West started selling quite a bit of art. And what came out later in Michael West's career is that Michael West is actually Corinne Michelle West. And Corinne Michelle West was not getting any of her art sold until she changed her name to Michael West. And then she started selling a lot of art. And so if you look her up, she has a ton of art being sold at really great prices. But it's very interesting, again, how those sort of isms have been affecting us for many years. But that is my art. I do see a hand raised by Rebecca. Do you have a question about the art or some other question? Oh, yeah, Claudia, that you're right. Our whole wall is filled with art by marginalized people, either people of color or women who did not get their due. So we just really love that. All right, so Anne, what's next on the list?
So you are just going to say your farewell now, and I think you're going to ask everyone if there's one thing they'd like you to know, and we're going to have a little bit of music.
Great. So, my friends, it's so great to spend some time with you today. I know you have busy schedules, and I look forward to driving out to your areas when it's safe to do so. I have an unhealthy obsession with artists and arts organizations, and so I will look forward to enjoying what your organizations and what your artists do in your towns. Reach out to us if you have any questions. What I'd love from you is, as you're leaving, is to put information in the chat that you really feel like you want me to know as we're sort of pulling together our vision. We're going to save the chat, and then the staff and I will sort of go through those and see what rises to the top. But thank you so much for joining us. And on our way out, we are going to hear music from a performance of West African music and dance by Bala Kuwaiti and Sidi Mohammed Joe Kamara as part of a 2017 showcase concert presented by Mass Cultural Council at the Shaolin, I said this wrong the other day, Shaolin Liu Performance Center in Rockport, Massachusetts. Thank you so much, and put your information in the chat and enjoy some music, and I'll hang here and listen to the music and watch what you say. Thanks, friends. Yes. I'll see you note about broadband. I'm actually having conversations with states that have similar issues to kind of figure out what they're doing as well. Oh no, I did it again. My cup has the University of New Hampshire. It's bad, right? I'll find one from Massachusetts. That's 2 cups. Where do I get these? I've never even been there.
Going.
No idea where that came from.
Nice, Diane. Wendy, we have a friend. Nice, friends. We'll close on in about a minute, okay? Good comments. Oh, I forgot to, oh, darn, I forgot to say, please, if you're not a part of Mass Creative, please sign up for their listservs. We'll have our advocacy campaign happening. And also we sent out a couple of weeks ago, we sent out a survey asking you for updates on how COVID has affected your revenues. That information will be used to help us figure out our campaign for advocating. So please share that with your artists and fill it out if you can. Thank you. Okay, friends, we'll see you soon. Take care now.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Great session.